Okay, so we're here with ticket 8877. It is a 5-key trad flute, and we're just going to start off with an assessment. I think the best place to start is just by doing a leak test. So just test all the joints of the flute and make sure they're all airtight. We're going to start with the head joint here, and you can see that I've got the mag machine set up, ready to go. And just a reminder, when I switch on the mag machine here, it's going to shoot up to 10. That's because there's no resistance when it's moving at 10 inches of water. And if I plug up that gap, it's going to pretty quickly drop all the way down to 0. That means there is no leaks, there's no air moving, and that's what we're aiming for. So I've got a rubber bung in the barrel tenon of the head joint, and I'm going to pump air into here, like so. And then when I block off the embouchure, the tone hole here, we're looking for a 0. So let's see, if I block this with my thumb, and we're down to about a 5.9, 5.8. That's a pretty significant leak in the head joint. If I try and interfere with the tuning cork here, it only seems to make it worse. So that's not a great place to have a leak in an instrument, because, you know, as we know, leaks work in serial, so the higher up they are, the more of the instrument they affect. So we're going to get to the bottom of this first. What I'll do is I'll take the crown assembly out and I'll plug that with another rubber bung to make sure that's definitely airtight, and then we'll test again. So stand by, we'll be back with that second test. Okay, so we're back with 8877, and we've got the crown assembly removed and separated, and that cork here might be wanting to be changed. Let's find out. So we're going to plug up top of our head joint with a rubber stopper here, a bung, and flick on our mag machine. We're up at 10 because I've got the tone hole open, the embouchure open. So if I close that up now, okay, the good news is that it's a lot less. We're sitting at about a 1. We're leaking only a little bit. The bad news is that I've seen this once before, and what I think is happening is air being pumped in here is finding its way out of this inner brass tube, finding its way out of that between the wood and the brass tube, the wood of the head joint and the brass tube, and making its way back out here, where the tenon receiver slots in. So we're going to try and plug this up next, and if we can plug that up and we read a 0, then we'll know that most likely there's a small leak in between the brass tube, the inner tube, and somewhere in the embouchure hole cut. That's pretty common. That's the last place left for any leak to happen. It's escaping between the two layers here. So let's see if we can plug that, and then we'll come back with another test. Okay, 877. Using the latest in band instrument repair technology, aka Blu-Tack, we've plugged up the tenon receiver of the head joint. So if I now, also we're plugging the top of the head joint, so if I now cover the tone hole with my thumb, we are down to exactly a 0. So great, we've got a proper diagnosis on the head joint here. Let's quickly on camera remove the Blu-Tack here and test again. And we're sitting at about 0.9, 0.8. So a very, very small leak coming out of the delamination between the brass and the timber. That's something that we'll have to discuss about, you know, what we'll do to resolve that, because it does mean interfering slightly with the embouchure here, the tone hole. So I think just by replacing the tenon cork, the head joint cork, the crown assembly cork, we will make great inroads. And here is the state of the cork. So that's what we're dealing with. This one might come up good once cleaned, but it looks like in this case the cork here is glued to the crown assembly, so it would mean destroying this cork, scraping it off, and then reinstalling a fresh cork on there. Okay, let's move on to the barrel. Okay, and we're with our bottom joint here. Same situation. I'm pumping air through the top, plugging the bottom, bungs in all our tone holes here. And let's switch on our mag machine and see what we're pulling. We're pulling, oh, even better. That's pretty much a true zero. I'd just call it a true zero, which is fantastic. And let's check our key articulation. So we do our short F, returning to 0.1, between 0.1 and 0, and our long F. Okay, our long F, there's a bit of movement there. It hasn't come back to 0. In fact, it's coming back at a 0.5 right now. So some movement, some issues going on with that long F. I adjust it from side to side. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so it's just not falling back exactly in the same place each time, which a pad that's gotten hard will need. And that movement, the action, earlier I thought the action of this F was suboptimal, but it feels quite smooth right now. And that time, yeah, so just then it's pretty much returned back to 0, but with a little bit of help it got better. So that's probably the weakest key on the instrument. Let's move on to our final joint, the foot joint. And to finish up, we've just plugged up our foot joint, our keyless foot joint here. So let's switch on our mag machine, and pretty straightforward, we're pulling a 0. So we're happy with that. What this process doesn't test, however, is the connection between joints. You might have noticed when we were testing our top joint here, we've got some thread on the cork, and some lines, some indentations, some old thread on the top cork. And if I put the barrel onto the top joint here, can you see? I'll get it all the way on, and I don't know if you can see that, but I can feel a click-clack motion in my hands where it's just a bit loose. And let's put our bottom joint on here. Goes on very, very easily, and to less of an extent, a bit of movement here as well. The overall condition of this flute is quite good. You can just tell it's a bit dry in the bore. Yeah, there are some quite open kind of pores in the bore. Here it's very hard to capture on camera, especially without a backlight, which I won't set up right now for you. And let's have a look in here. The bottom joint looks a bit better, but yeah, still a few little open seams. As we saw with the mag machine, nothing serious, nothing yet leaking too much, although in this top joint we did have a 0.1 leak which you couldn't get rid of with any key or tone hole manipulation. So it's possible that with some oil this will help the timber and help the grain. Looking at the head joint, apart from the leaks, there's a bit of build-up just of grime on the inside of the embouchure, pretty typical of a flute that's played as much as this one is. And the tenon joint of our bottom, our right hand joint, the tenon doesn't feel too bad, but probably because there's some kind of like plumber's tape or something here. So we could do a bit to this flute. We could change every cork, including the crown assembly cork and the long F pad, as well as re-lubricating, oiling it, clean out the embouchure. That will probably have quite a noticeable effect. Actually, we all know that that shape in there is every dimension is critical to the response and playability and tuning of the flute. So by cleaning that out, it might restore it to how it played previously before all that grime was built up, as well as kind of a few low-hanging leaks, so to speak, in the cork here and the F here, and I'm sure the tenons aren't doing any favors. If we assembled this whole instrument and plugged everything up. In fact, let's have a look at that just to finish off here. So I'll assemble everything and plug it up, and we'll test from the barrel to the foot joint. All right, so here's the instrument from the barrel down to the foot joint, all plugged up. And let's have a look. If we switch this on, we saw that the worst individual piece we got was maybe the top joint here at a 1 or something. Is about a 0.1, so not too bad overall. And if we flick this on all together, we're reading about a 7.1. So that's speaking to the looseness in the tenons, in the tenon corks rather here. So that's just to illustrate that. About a 7.1. So we're losing a lot of air out of there, and every little bit does add up to the kind of the richness and the ease of playing of all woodwind instruments. So we'll finish up there, and we'll decide what to tackle and in which order. Okay, here is the barrel, and we're pumping air into the tenon here. Make sure that's nice and snug, and we're going to block off the open and the body side of the barrel with the plug here. And again, not a complete seal, we're sitting at about 1 inch of water, 0.9, 0.95. If I manipulate this end plug, it goes down to about a 0.5. So fine, not 100% sealing. And my palm on here, if I really put a bit of pressure, we're getting 0.2 about on the mag machine. There is evidence of an old crack here, and I think this one was being treated with beeswax to compensate for the movement of timber over time from season to season, rainy days, etc. So yeah, even down to a 0.1 at times. So I'm not too unhappy with the barrel, but needless to say, not perfect. Okay, let's move on to our left hand joint. Okay, continuing with our diagnosis, and we're up to the left hand joint, and let's have a look. You can see I'm going to pump air into the top of the tenon here, blocking up the bottom, and I've plugged up tone holes 1, 2, 3. Let's switch on our mag machine and see, and that's sealing very nicely at about 0.1. Now if I put pressure on any of these keys, is it going to improve at all? No. Fantastic. So our key work is solid. Another test that we'd like to do is to articulate the key. So we play C, release it, let it settle itself. Is it going to seal back to a 1? Just about. Yep. I'll B flat. Let that seal itself. Back down to a 1. Great. And let's see our G sharp. Happy days. So that's all coming back down to a 1. Now that little 0.1, that 0.1 leak could just be an irregularity in the grain of the tenon around where we're plugging it up. So if I manipulate it, maybe I can see that to 0, but no, it's remaining as a 0.1. And if I just scooch these bungs in a little bit more into the tonals, remaining as a 0.1. So that's something that is most likely going to be take new pads to resolve. There's probably a little pinprick hole here, and you won't see them. You don't see any movement in the mag machine when you apply pressure to the to the pads if they're over a certain age. They just get too hard. But about down at 0.1, we're quite happy with that. So let's move on to our right hand joint.